Video 6. Responding to the responses of response. Quote, responding to atheist statements about God, end quote. Oh, this should be good. Strap in and hold on tight as we dive into Slick Stick and see what he tells his sheeple to tell us in chat rooms. Yay! Quote, I lack a belief in God. If you say that atheism is simply a lack of belief in God, then my cat is an atheist, the same as the tree outside and the sidewalk out front, since they also lack faith. Therefore, your definition is insufficient. End quote. This is an appeal to consequence as well as just being plain wrong. Definitions of words don't have to be sufficient. Who made that rule and when, Slick? Where do you get this idea from? What's intriguing to me is that this topic is actually something that quite some time ago I recall watching various YouTube videos with different atheists talking about this subject and debating among themselves as well as debating with others. Is a baby an atheist? Some said yes, some said no. Is a rock an atheist? Some said no because it can't believe anything, but since it couldn't believe anything, it lacked a belief in God, as well as everything else. So people were arguing back and forth on this. Also, in the same vein, people were saying and arguing if atheism was the default position. Here's my take. Natural language problem. We really need some new words. A, without. Theist, God. That's what it is. That's what the word atheist is. That's all. Given that, anything without God is an atheist in the most technical terms. That means even inanimate objects, like it or not. However, some of us humans would want the word to be more hard to find. Only a human, as far as we know, can think there's a God, so only a human should be able to not think that there is a God. We can pin down what atheist is better. Yes, some dictionaries do in fact include words that suggest that only a thinking human can perform this action. Others do not. Since dictionaries are made by the collective agreement of people, we can get them, in theory, to change to be better. And perhaps get them all to agree on the word's definition, although that is problematical given licensing and how all that works. A whole other issue in itself. Webster's, for example, is known to be better than other dictionaries and has been for quite some time. But if they can just copy Webster's, then Webster's loses money if they charge cheaper than they do. So, I digress. My point is, the idea that a cat might indeed be thought of as an atheist is just fine with me personally. I honestly don't care. It does not matter what the word means. It doesn't invalidate the arguments made by those who endorse the word's idea. The appeal to consequence here fails utterly. Quote, lacking belief is a non-statement because you have been exposed to the concept of God and have made a decision to accept or reject. Therefore, you either believe there is a God, or you do not, or you are agnostic. You cannot remain in a state of lack of belief. End quote. Yes, I can. I've been exposed. Is that really the word we want to use here? I mean, the Catholic Church has exposed... never mind. I've encountered thousands of God ideas and concepts by reading about them online. And I lack belief in all of them. And I also don't believe in any of them. And I think that some of them don't exist. These two aren't mutually exclusive things that I or anyone else can do. You can lack a belief in the multiverse, but still think it's possible. You can believe in leprechauns, or you can lack a belief in leprechauns, and or you can believe that leprechauns can't exist anywhere, ever, and so on. Of course, not to my surprise, we get the whole worn-out, tired, dead horse of You are agnostic. I swear, does any apologist ever bother to look up what words mean? You can be an atheist and agnostic. Really, if you want to call me agnostic, go ahead. I still don't believe in God, so it changes nothing. And yes, I can remain in a state of a lack of belief all I want. I guess this is trying to wedge a false dichotomy in here. You must either choose God or no God. Choose wisely. Well, bleep. I guess no God, since all gods have zero proof for them. But I don't have to choose at all if I don't want to. Quote, if you lack belief in God, then why do you go around attacking the idea of God? If you also lack belief in invisible pink unicorns, why don't you go around attacking that idea? End quote. Had this question been asked anywhere else, it might be a decent question, but here it's used to purely be troll bait. But there's a number of answers to this. Here's a few that I have. Feel free to add your own in the comments below. 1. It's my hobby to attack the idea of God. 2. I have nothing better to do with my time than attack the ideas of God. 3. I actually attack invisible pink unicorns. I'm a frequent poster on the IPU forums. I debate those wackos all the time. 4. Because I don't want people to believe in things that don't exist, and a ton of people believe in God. Unlike the invisible pink unicorn, people really believe a God exists, and I want them to stop that. 5. Because people who believe in God are in charge of politics and world affairs. 6. Imagine if people believed in invisible pink unicorns. Wouldn't you want to tell them that they are wrong? Do you care if people believe in things that don't exist? 7. If you don't believe in atheism, why do you go around attacking atheists? 8. If you don't believe in Allah, then you should never debate anyone who does, using your own faulty idea here. 9. Lobsters. I had to add that one. Just a few possible answers. Moving on. Quote, I don't believe there is a God. Why don't you believe there is no God? End quote. Because there's no empirical evidence, repeatable test, or logically coherent argument for it. On one of my William Lane Craig videos, and you can find it, and if you can find it, post it in the links below and you get bonus cookies, because I'm too lazy to figure out which one it is right now. A poster called Accept Jesus or Burn has some interesting text comments for me. And I'm paraphrasing here, but he essentially said in response to this statement that there's just no reason why God should be found by science. None at all! To assume that that would be the case. What other system do you want to use? And I'm not using purely the scientific method here, by the way. Empirical evidence, a repeatable test, those are things that actually find things and we can learn about things using those two things. What else is there? Now, I add a logically coherent argument because I love informal logic, and I want to continue to point out that theists and apologists have not yet made a logically coherent argument for whatever reason. And the moment they do, then I'll have something to go on. But at any rate, how do you know that? How do you know that it can't be found by that? And why would you think that having some other weird way is acceptable? I don't believe in God unless it can be found with the same means that we would find other things. But they want us to do a super secret special means, special pleading for a God, a special exception made for God. How do we know about God? If we're not going to say the Bible, the only response that I've really heard about that, I've heard a couple, has been, well, I feel it inside of me, I've experienced God, or because of this logical argument. And that logical argument is full of logical fallacies. So I say, okay, well, that logical argument's full of logical fallacies, and they go, no, it's not! and I don't know what to do at that point. As far as the feeling thing, feelings, nothing more than feelings. And we can explain that using natural phenomenon. So how can you tell the difference between it being God and not God? How can you tell it if it's just a chemical versus the actual experience? No answer. I just know. I just know that it is. Some people will add, I know that I know that I know that I know. I've heard this in church a couple of times. Why add so many no's to it? I mean, does that really make it more truthful to your brain? No, you don't know. You believe it's true. You believe there's a God. You don't know that there's a God. You believe that you know, perhaps. But I don't need to quibble over these words. My point is, I don't believe in God for the same reasons that you don't believe in leprechauns, fairies, dragons, ogres, demons. Oh wait, you do believe in demons. Bleep. Okay, any other mythology, any other religion out there, you don't believe in those things. And you don't believe them because there's I don't believe in them because the Bible says that they're not real. I give up. In that logic, we shouldn't believe in microwaves because microwaves aren't in the Bible. Alright. Anyways. Moving on. Sorry, just preparing myself mentally for this next part here. Quote, there is no proof that God exists. To say there is no proof for God's existence is illogical because an atheist cannot know all things by which he could state that there is no proof. He can only say that he has not yet seen a convincing proof. After all, there may be one he hasn't yet seen, end quote. What the bleep? This is the same thing as before, it's just worded slightly differently. Yeah, there might be proof that monkeys can talk, and I just haven't seen it yet. Tell you what, you go learn how the burden of proof works and come back when you've done so. This sloppy idea is true of any idea we could come up with. That there's no proof that monkeys can talk, it's illogical because we can't know all things. Ribbit, ribbit, I'm a cow. Bleep me. Seriously. I need a bleep. It's been 3 years now. Oh, wait. Sorry. I'm doing a video, right? What was I doing? All right. Okay. No. I can know that I've not seen any evidence for myself. And I can also know that the scientific community also hasn't seen any evidence, and I can also know that every atheist I've encountered has not seen any evidence. Or, well, I can know that based on what they're telling me, and I don't know why they would lie about that. But maybe there's some evidence that we just have missed. Yeah, that's nice. Go find that evidence and present it. Quote, all science has never found any evidence for God. This is a subjective statement. There are many scientists who affirm evidence for God's existence through science. End quote. Really? Name those scientists that have affirmed evidence for God's existence through science, which affirming it would be nothing to me. How about a peer-reviewed published paper on the matter? There are scientists that believe in God, sure. But through science? No. Not unless they've published a paper that's been peer-reviewed by scientists. No, that doesn't count. How about a list of that? No, Matt Slick doesn't provide us a list. He just says it like it's true. Hello? Hey, how's it going? Oh, it's Outright Lie. It's been a while since I've heard from you. Yeah! How's it going? It's going great. You know what I'm gonna do now? What? Hang up on you. Screw you, Matt! Just screw your lying ways. Quote, your pre-assumptions is that science has no evidence of God, but that's only an opinion. New paragraph. Science looks at natural phenomenon through measuring, weighing, seeing, etc. God, by definition, is not limited to the universe. Therefore, it would not be expected that physical detection of God would be found. End quote. Again, with the whole opinion crap, Matt's in love with that idea. No, it's not just an opinion, it's fact. Science has not found any evidence for God. If it did, it would have been breaking news a long time ago. If there is a scientific paper that's been published and peer-reviewed, then show me the paper! Show me the paper! The second part, and I said new paragraph, even though that's not part of the quote, because I want to make sure that you understood it was a second paragraph that I was dealing with, is saying that God is defined as something that science can't find, making all the other things that were said in response to there not being scientific evidence of God an outright lie. Matt's saying we can't find God because God can't be found by science. So why the whole song and dance with that science has no evidence for God and that's just my pre-assumption, it's just my opinion? Why the whole song and dance that scientists have said that there's scientific evidence for God? Why all of that? Well, it just seems useless here with this. If you're just going to say that God can't be found by science, I don't know how you would know that, but nonetheless, if you're going to say that, then you don't need to say those other things. Man, Matt's just a pro at lying, isn't he? Just a pro. Quote, what is God, or define God? God is the only supreme being who is unchanging, eternal, holy, and Trinitarian in nature. He alone possesses the attributes of omniscience, omnipresence, and omnipotence. He alone brought the universe into existence by the exertion of his will. End quote. Really? How do you know that? Let me guess. The Bible? Yeah, the Bible. I really have nothing to say on this circular definition of God. Quote, prove your God is real. End quote.